As the opening of the transfer window gets ever closer, some huge stories and rumours are coming out from the likes of Tottenham, Liverpool, Manchester United and Newcastle this morning. So if you want to hear those, you keep watching. Guys, thank you so much for all your support. Please do give this video a like and press subscribe, especially if you're looking for daily transfer news this summer. This is also available as a podcast, so just go over to Spotify or Apple Podcasts, give me a like, subscribe or follow there, and you can become a member too. Just look in the description box, only £1 a month to help support me, give you this daily content. But let's get straight into it, and as ever, when there are stories about my beloved Spurs, I will start with them. Starting off with Shakhtar Donetsk, they ideally want to sell their star playmaker number 10, Georgi Sudakov, after Euro 2024, which will give them the time they feel they need to analyse offers. They really hope that the tournament will raise Sudakov's value. I have to say, he's the next big star coming out of Ukraine, a really exciting number 10, skillful, amazing vision, incredible passing, but also, and this is what I think might attract Big Ange Postecoglou at Tottenham, he is not afraid to put in a defensive shift either. He's not the kind of forward who just watches as the ball gets transitioned past him. He comes back and puts in a shift. However, one thing probably counting against Spurs in terms of getting this deal over the line, Shakhtar Donetsk currently looking for 70 million euros at least. And let's face it, Tottenham and Shakhtar do not have the greatest relationship at the moment because Tottenham did them dirty getting Manos Solomon after he'd done a loan deal at Fulham, and then what happened was his contract was ripped up because of the war in the Ukraine, and Shakhtar were looking for some money from Spurs as a thank you, basically, for letting them have their player. But Tottenham didn't really give them any money, and in fact just gave them a friendly, very Daniel Levy-esque stuff there. So he will have to improve their relationship if they are likely to get Georgi Sudakov into Tottenham Hotspur. But Tottenham definitely do need some more creativity in that number 10 role, especially if you imagine that Gio Lo Celso will likely be leaving the club this summer. So somebody needs to come in and help James Maddison. Of course, Decky Kulusevski can play in the number 10, but I think realistically, Big Ange Postecoglou wants to keep him out wide on the right if at all possible. So keep your eyes open about this Georgi Sudakov deal. I think it's likely that other clubs will be in for him too, but Spurs have been sniffing around him since January. Some other news that does relate to Tottenham: Liverpool are now apparently interested in getting Ederson, the Atalanta defensive midfielder, in as their number 1 signing under Arne Slot. Now, of course, Tottenham have been interested in Ederson since January. Have been really looking to get him in potentially as a replacement for Pierre-Emile Højbjerg. So keep your eyes on this one. Liverpool sniffing around him too. That really shows the quality of the player, if you ask me. And obviously, he just won the Europa League as well. More Tottenham rumours. Alfie Doughty, 24 years old, can play either side, either fullback or wingback at Luton this season. Had a really, really impressive year, and he is interesting a number of clubs following Luton's relegation. He got 8 assists and 2 goals from win-back this season, and Spurs are definitely one of those clubs interested. He really reminds me of Kieran Trippier, actually, before we signed him, because Trippier was maybe not the quickest in terms of getting back, but an incredible ball deliverer, and Alfie Doughty is very similar like that. And I think we all know that Tottenham are looking for homegrown players, but also players who can cover that right back or left back, either for Porro or Udogie next season. So that's why I think we're sniffing around Alfie Doughty, and I think that might be a good move. Not one I think that will, really excite the fans, but I think next season, a lot of it, I think we do need some kind of big players to come in as replacements for the first team, of course, but also we need some squad deepening as well. So Doughty would be a good one for that. And maybe in a similar vein, Tottenham, according to The Athletic, are still interested in Nottingham Forest and Brazil centre-back Murillo. I was really impressed with him last season. He is a big old brute of a stopper, good player, but also not afraid to give the ball and go forward and chase it as well in terms of getting forward, which we know Big Ange Postecoglou will like, and of course loves a long shot. Do you see that one he had from the halfway line that nearly went in? Now I've got to reference the big news that came out of Spurs yesterday, which did kind of divide the Tottenham fan base. That is that they have extended Timo Werner's loan for another season. Now, according to a number of the sources, the deal is pretty much exactly the same, in which that Tottenham will cover his wages. However, whereas before, if we wanted to sign him on a permanent deal this summer, it would have been kind of 15 million euros. I think that has gone down a little bit now. It might be down to about £8 million if we want to buy him on a permanent deal next summer. Fabrizio Romano says that Tottenham are still looking to sign a first-team wide forward despite this deal. So that kind of is in keeping with what I was saying about Tottenham needing to improve the first team immediately, by which I mean look at an Elise, an Eza, someone like that who can go in as that wide forward and let Sonny maybe play down the middle, or they can, all swap around with Richarlison there and sometimes Sonny play out the left, but also needing that squad depth. And I think that is why Timo Werner has been signed up for another season on loan. He gives the squad depth. We're going to be playing Europa League football, and let's face it, we need more depth. We got a lot of injuries this season, and we had probably the shortest season of any club in recent years. We only played, 3 cup games in total. So I think that Werner move is a good one. However, a lot of Spurs fans are very unexcited by it. And I think, frankly, if Tottenham had made a big kind of statement signing as their first signing this summer and then Timo Werner had come in, they wouldn't have minded so much. But for that to be the first deal over the line, I think it has upset some. Let me know in the comments what you think about it. Richarlison has come out quite strongly on social media today and said that it is all fake news that he might be leaving. In fact, he said England, but I assume he means Tottenham Hotspur. He will be staying with the club, and that is in keeping with what a lot of the press was saying last week. So I think it's good. Richarlison needs to get himself fit. He's come back early from his holiday to try and do that. And, when he's on a good run of scoring form and he believes in himself, he's confident, he is a top number 9. We just need to get him back into that position. Okay, some other news about Southampton, who've just come up through the playoffs, but that is also relevant to Tottenham Hotspur. Southampton's are looking to make their first signing since they come back into the Premier League, and they want it to be Sunderland's winger Jack Clarke, who of course was at Spurs before, and Spurs have a big sell-on clause for Jack Clarke, so that could be a way for more money to come into the club. There are rumours that Tottenham are interested in getting Kyle Walker-Peters back from Southampton. Again, probably in that kind of Alfie Doughty role that I talked about as a kind of backup for the right back and the left back. I don't see that happening now that Southampton have gone up. I don't know why Kyle Walker-Peters would want to come back to Spurs when he didn't really get much game time when he was here before, and it's unlikely he would get much more game time, assuming that Porro and Udogie are fit. So that's one I can't see happening, but the Jack Clarke one I can. He's a very talented player, and it just didn't quite work out for him. He was a bit young when he came to Spurs. Maybe he's put on a little bit more weight now, might be a bit more kind of a viable option in the Premier League for a team like Southampton. Okay, let's move on to some of the other transfer rumours doing the rounds. First up, competition is growing for Red Bull Leipzig's Spanish forward Dani Olmo. Lots of clubs interested in him. He's had an amazing season, such a talent. 26 years old now, so kind of getting towards his prime. But Manchester United, Manchester City and Liverpool all sniffing around him, as well as the big clubs, Barcelona and Bayern Munich, the biggest clubs in Europe. Barcelona, from everything that Xavi has said since he's lost his job, Barcelona will not have a lot of money to spend, so I cannot see them really duking it out with the likes of United, City and Liverpool. But let's see what happens with Dani Olmo, because I really like him, and he's the kind of player I would love to see coming to the Premier League. More news coming out of Everton. According to The Sun, Farhad Moshiri, their chairman, will be forced into a fire sale of stars this June, or he may well have to put the club into administration. I mentioned yesterday that the co-owner of Crystal Palace is looking to leave Palace, sell up his shares there and potentially try and take over at Everton. But that is something that is going to take a lot of time. And Everton do not have time to burn. They are really struggling in terms of their finances. And as a result, Sky Sports today are talking up the possibility of Manchester United getting their young star Jared Branthwaite on a cut price deal. Everton were looking for £80 million. I said yesterday that maybe United will go for £60 million. But today, Sky Sports is suggesting that Man United may be able to get him for as little as £40 million. That would be a steal for a young, homegrown English player. Blimey. I think Everton, if they let him go for £40 million, and that shows they really are in all sorts of trouble. The Leeds chairman as well today has come out and said because they didn't get promoted to the Premier League, they are going to have to sell some of their players. Tottenham are very interested in Archie Gray, really talented young player, can play midfield or fullback, beautiful on the ball, really graceful, takes it in tight spaces, can get it on the half turn all the time. He's a real big Ange Postecoglou type player. I wonder if there's a swap deal potentially to be done there with Joe Rodon and perhaps we give them a little bit of money on top of that as well. A former Tottenham player is in the news as well. Kieran Trippier, lots of talk that he is going to be leaving Newcastle to go to Saudi Arabia this summer, and the fee being talked about is £15 million. He's well into his 30s now, so I can see why Newcastle, especially as Trippier didn't have the best season last year, he made a lot of mistakes. I wonder if they would be interested in taking that 15 million. A kind of similar pattern has emerged with Trippier at Newcastle to his career at Spurs, where he had a great few first seasons, and then, well, what happened at Spurs was he came out after he left Spurs and said actually he was playing with an injury and he didn't feel that Daniel Levy really treated him that well. And as soon as they got a bid of kind of £20-25 million from Atletico Madrid, they let him go. It seems to me like similar might be happening at Newcastle here. Obviously, they've got Tino Livramento as a backup right back, and he looks really ready for first team action. So maybe Newcastle and Eddie Howe and obviously the Public Investment Fund of Saudi Arabia are now looking at a possibility of getting £15 million in, selling him to themselves in essence, and getting that money in to help with the profit and sustainability rules before June the 30th. Trippier, of course, is still likely to play for England in this summer's Euros, probably at left back, because England are so struggling in that position with Luke Shaw and Ben Chilwell injured. Shaw is trying to make it to the finals, but I think he said it himself, it's a bit of a long shot. Julian Lopetegui has made his first signing as West Ham manager. I mentioned this one last week, but it's gone through now. Bruno, centre-back from Flamengo for £12 million plus add-ons. He's obviously watched a lot of West Ham's stuff from last season and feels like a ball-playing centre-half is what is needed there. Moving on to some Manchester United news. Quite a lot going on with Manchester United, as you'd expect, I guess, with Jim Ratcliffe and Ineos and the changes that have happened there. And, of course, they've just won the Cup. But the kind of forgotten man of Manchester United, Mason Greenwood, he won Getafe's Player of the Season this year. That was announced this week, and he wants to return there on loan next season or as a permanent signing. It's a difficult one for Manchester United because they want to sell the player, but they need to do it in a way that doesn't look like they are profiting too much from somebody who, you know, allegedly sexually harassed his girlfriend and was kind of recorded threatening her. I'm sure we've all heard that recording. Borussia Dortmund are interested in Mason Greenwood as well. It's a very difficult one there because he's such a talented player, but he really did get himself in a very difficult spot in his personal life. It'd be interesting to see which clubs are willing to take on that kind of poison chalice. However, Getafe did take that risk and he played really well for them. So if they can get the money that Manchester United are happy with, I'm sure he would go there. Gareth Southgate, just keeping with Manchester United, he has apparently been approached by them potentially to take over from Erik ten Hag. He has said he will not talk about any possible manager's job until after the Euros. His contract with England runs out in December. The FA apparently do want him to stay on longer than that. However, also this morning the Telegraph have claimed that United have also held talks with the entourages of Maurizio Pochettino and Thomas Frank. So they are really looking at potential options to replace Erik ten Hag without having made the decision as to whether they want to keep ten Hag or not. Man United, as ever, in a slight element of disarray despite the fact that they've just won a trophy. And going on from that, I'm sure you read this yesterday, but Ineos and Jim Ratcliffe have sent a letter out to every member of staff who works at Manchester United offering them redundancy, including the early payment of an annual bonus if they take it. This is part of Ineos' drive to cut down the staff and also to get them all back into the office. There have been complaints about how many of Manchester United staff work remotely. It seems like quite an old-fashioned take from Sir Jim Ratcliffe and Ineos. And there's certainly been some kind of backlash from Manchester United fans who are slightly worried that Jim Ratcliffe is more Mike Ashley than like the great white knight they were hoping for. Apparently the staff have 1 week to decide whether they want to take that redundancy offer or not. Some more transfer news. According to the Mirror, Aston Villa and Crystal Palace are eyeing a move for Ghent's 22-year-old English defender Archie Brown. That'll be interesting to see. Palace have bought really, really well over the last few years, especially when it comes to young talent. The last one through the door being Adam Wharton from Blackburn, who's done incredibly well since he went there in January, and as I mentioned before, is in that preliminary England Euros squad. Harry Kane has ended the season as the European Golden Boot winner. Obviously, he left Spurs to go for trophies. Everyone takes the piss out of Harry Kane for not having won trophies, but he has gone to Bayern Munich and had an incredible season, and it certainly can't be deemed to be his fault that they did so badly. In fact, finished third in the Bundesliga behind Leverkusen and Stuttgart, and only got to the semi-finals of the Champions League, which was a good run for them after they'd had a disappointing season. But Kane, still incredible to have got the golden boot. 36 goals this season and 44 goal contributions. My question to you, if you're watching and you are a fan of Harry Kane, do you think he made the right decision leaving Tottenham Hotspur? Where would he have had the options to move to if he'd stayed one more season at Spurs and was available on a Bosman free transfer this summer? And also, where would Tottenham have finished in the league had Harry Kane played for them this season? Let me know in the comments what you think about that. I'd be really interested to know. I think Tottenham had to kind of get the money through the door for the long term, but also, you know, I think Tottenham would have been in the top four for sure if Harry Kane had stayed. Let me know what you think in the comments. There are rumours coming out that Leicester's punishment for breaking the profit and sustainability rules last time they were in the Premier League could lead to a points deduction of between 6 and 15 points. As they straight away come back in the Premier League, they will be given a deduction for the way they broke the profit and sustainability rules last time they were in the Premier League. Obviously, they've just lost their manager, Maresca. He's going to be announced at Chelsea anytime now. Who is going to want to go there and manage Leicester now with that hanging over their heads? And perhaps that's why Maresca was pretty happy to go to the basket case club of Chelsea, when maybe he knew that Leicester wouldn't really have a chance of staying up if they start with kind of a -6 to -15 points. The latest rumours are that Graham Potter is in with a chance of going there, but I'm not sure why he'd want to, especially as he's being potentially talked about as the next Brighton manager. Meanwhile, Jude Bellingham, what a player he is. He has been named La Liga Player of the Season at 19 years old. Quite incredible. What a talent. I just think, when I think about Jude Bellingham now, I just think there has to be a way that Gareth Southgate finds him, Foden, Kane, Saka and Cole Palmer in the same team for England. If he has to play the double pivot in front, two defensive midfielders, maybe Kobbie Mainoo and Declan Rice, fine. You say to that back six, you defend, and then you pass it to the rest of them. What a talented group we have going forward. It's going to potentially be a very exciting Euros indeed if they can all stay fit. Let me know in the comments how you think England are going to do in the Euros. I think I'm going to do some live shows during the European Championships so we can all kind of watch and engage together as they do so. But I do think if Southgate can find the right balance and get all those kind of players playing together, could be so exciting. Steve Cooper has apparently turned down the chance to replace Vincent Kompany as Burnley manager. Obviously, Steve Cooper was formerly the one of the England unders managers, very highly rated within the game. Tries to play football the right way when he's got the talent at his disposal. He did well at Nottingham Forest, taking them up. And actually, I think it's been shown by how Nottingham Forest have done since they let him go that really he was doing an incredible job at Forest before he lost his job there. Maybe he's turning down the Burnley job because he thinks he can get a job at one of maybe the lower Premier League clubs when they inevitably sack a manager halfway through this season. It'll be really interesting to see where Steve Cooper ends up. And then the final bit of transfer stuff happening today. Bournemouth have signed Turkey forward Enes Ünal on a permanent deal from Getafe for about £13 million. He was on loan at the Cherries last season, scored 2 goals across 17 appearances at the club, although a lot of those appearances were made from the substitutes bench. So Bournemouth kind of opening their pockets to get a player. What a season they had. Very impressive stuff. Guys, thank you so much for watching. Let me know in the comments what you think of some of those transfer rumours. Obviously, very interesting to me that Liverpool now trying to get involved in potentially the signing of Ederson. I think Liverpool have got a lot of very talented young midfielders who might be very unhappy if they bring in another defensive midfielder. And the one I'm talking about potentially most is Trent Alexander-Arnold, who only has 1 year left on his contract. And maybe this rumour of Ederson coming in from Atalanta, maybe that means Trent Alexander-Arnold has said to them, actually, I'm going to run my contract down. And Liverpool may look to try and get some money through the door from Trent this summer, if he has told them that. I personally think, he's a Scouse boy. I'm not sure whether he's quite old enough yet to think he's ready to get a I don't know, a free transfer move. Maybe he'll sign one more contract. But if he has told the club that he is looking to leave, then that would make sense as to why they might be looking to bring in another defensive midfielder. Also, as I mentioned earlier, obviously, if you're a Spurs fan, let me know in the comments what you think about that Timo Werner move as well. It's really divided the Spurs fan base. It'd be very interesting to see how he does next season. Ange obviously really loves him. You know what you're going to get with Werner. He's a trier and he will get to the byline and cut balls back. And we did score a number of goals like that from Werner being on the pitch. But sure, he missed a number of chances whilst he was at the club too. Anyway, guys, that's today's kind of transfer news and Premier League news. Do drop the video a like. Please do press subscribe if you're not already and you want to get daily kind of transfer roundups this summer as we get closer to the window opening. Also, please do go over to the podcast platforms. Find me over there. It's called the Spurred On Podcast. And become a member. All the details in the description box. Only £1 a month helps me make this daily content for you. Have a great rest of your day, guys. Cheers.